Hello, welcome to a very special training today. I am very excited to be here, and it's been a while since we've seen a lot of you. I know that. We used to do these lives every week, but today is very special. We're going to go over some really great business mastermind tips, and we have Dr. Chris Zaino, Rick Sapio. There's not two other people on the planet who you can learn more from. And I just want to welcome you to the live call. Also want to let you know there's a button below this video that says register now. Go ahead and check that out. We're going to talk more about that and what that is here in just a second. We'll also be giving a big discount. So just if you do go check that out right now, know that there's a code that you can put in, HERO, all capitals, HERO, that will get you a $200 discount on what's on the other side of that button. So go ahead, check it out, and we'll go over that more in just a second. Right below that button, you'll see not only the social media links that you can click on, but also a chat role. And feel free to log into that chat role, post questions, comments. I'll be monitoring that, making sure that Dr. Zaino, that Rick Sapio gets the questions that you ask, any comments that you post in there. I'll make sure that they're covered as well. So just want to welcome everybody for being here and turn it over to my brother, Chris. There you go.
Thanks, Dr. Tabor. Glad to be on with you again. It's been kind of a crazy year.
Yeah.
All right. So I was at an event. Well, I know, you've seen Rick before, but for those of you, for the two people who don't know who Rick Sapio is, I was at an event probably a week ago, 2 weeks ago here at Park City, the UAC Ultimate Achievers Club. And Rick spoke. He spoke, and it was just, every time I hear him speak, I was just sitting there going, out of the whole weekend, there was other speakers. But after Rick spoke, I'm like, we got to bring this to you guys. So I immediately said, Rick, let's do a webinar at Tabor. Let's reunite. Let's get back together again. And so we're going to go over this again. Rick's going to talk. He went just a couple layers deep, which he'll share today on some points that I really loved that I want you to be able to apply to your life, and you'll just be better for it. And this is, I don't want to take the stage from Rick, so just listen and replay this over and over again, but then put action behind it. So Rick, welcome. Let's rock this.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Tabor. I love your audience because, these people want to improve themselves, right? And so what I said in UAC, which you were there in the audience, is very simply this: trying to understand the why behind what you do and why you do it and how you do it and all of that. And so what are we talking about here? We're talking about purpose. So I took everybody back to the beginning of my life. Why did I create Business Finishing School? Why am I looking for patterns in what makes businesses more successful than others? Why is simplicity, probability, and leverage so important to all of the people that have a business out there? Why do you need your employees to be trained in business? And all of those types of things. So I'm not going to tell the whole seminar, which is actually in February, but I do want to give you a couple of things that I said in the UAC event. And that is, it took me a long time to figure out, why am I so passionate about teaching people business principles that add simplicity, probability, and leverage to their lives? And the key here is simplicity. And that is also simplicity in your home life, simplicity in your relationships with your children, simplicity in how to hire great employees, simplicity in how to deliver your product to the marketplace. And it took me a long time, a lot of soul searching, a lot of psychotherapy. And what I realized is when I was born, way back in 1963, my brother, who was 3 years old, I want you to imagine this, a 3-year-old. Many of you know 3-year-olds or have a 3-year-old or have had a 3-year-old. My 3-year-old brother died when I was 11 days old. And my childhood was absolutely chaotic. I was the 7th of 10 babies. My brother died, and my mother just couldn't handle it. And many of you know about the mental issues she had. But when I was 11, my dad came home and told the family that he had incurable cancer, and he was given 6 weeks to live. And fortunately, he ended up living 2.5 years. And he taught us about self-sufficiency and independence and entrepreneurship. So my childhood, prior to my dad getting sick and after my dad getting sick, was incredibly chaotic. And it forced me, through a lot of soul searching now as an adult, it forced me to look for patterns, to look for security, to look to high probability decisions, to decide to become an engineer in college, because I needed to make sense out of the universe. And so I think now that the people that go to business finishing school and go to boot camp, they get to see my passionate expression, and they get to implement a lot of things that I've learned. And now they know why. Why am I doing this? Why am I so passionate about it? And the answer is, I don't want anybody to have that chaos in their lives. I don't want anybody to not have simplicity. I know we're not going to win the whole world, but the people that have been through our program, been through boot camp, tell me this is absolutely the best business training program I have ever seen in my life. So from a very simple perspective, I want to cover the business frame, which is something we're known for. And it's going to take some work to do it, just like it takes a lot of work to learn a language or to learn your craft. You didn't learn your craft overnight. You have to start with a purpose, why you exist as a human being and why your company exists. And many people don't even want to do that work. 5 years in, I don't really have a purpose statement. A purpose statement isn't something you get. It's something you have to do the work to peel the onion on yourself, and you uncover through peeling back layers. So that requires you to do some work. So you got a purpose for your life, you got a purpose for your company. And the next step, if you've seen it, is the catalyzing statement. The catalyzing statement is your purpose in action as a get to. So the example I used for Chris was Bill Gates said we wanted Microsoft to be the most recognizable software company in the world. That was the original purpose of Microsoft. But then he turned it into a catalyzing statement, which was world renowned at the time. A computer on every desktop, which allowed thousands of engineers to come forward and help Microsoft become one of the most valuable companies in the world. So now you got a purpose, you got a catalyzing statement. The next thing is, what values are you going to make decisions from? How crystal clear are those values? And you know all the companies that you look up to and you admire and you want to emulate, those companies have crystal clear values. Name a company yourself. I'm not even going to name one. And then the next layer is, what's my business strategy? And that is, who is my customer exactly? What are we selling the customer exactly? And lastly, how are we delivering our product or service? Most companies can't answer those questions, and we'll help you answer those questions and get that solid. Why? Because when you have all of that solid, your life becomes more simple. Your business becomes more simple. You have a much higher probability of achieving your objectives. You're leveraged. Simplicity, probability, and leverage. Those are the three pillars of the program. So now you got all the way down to your strategy. And next is, what are meaningful long-term objectives that align with those? And then what are short-term objectives that align with those? And then your job as a leader, once you lay this out, which doesn't have to take a long time, your job as a leader then is to beat the drum and never stop. But what do most business people do? They're chasing blinky, shiny objects. Their life is chaotic. They're on planes, trains, and automobiles. They don't have a relationship with their children or their spouse. They don't have rhythms in their life for working out or a date night every week. And so I'm here to layer on this business frame onto your life so that you can have a life a lot like Chris's. He's always calm, cool, calm, and collected whenever I see him, because a lot of this stuff has been figured out for him. He knows why he's here. And that's where it starts. And he's organized and systematized his life and his business to allow him even to live in another city, which is incredible. So I'll stop there, Chris, and throw it back to you.
No, I love it. So, Rick, can you explain? You said a point the other day that I really, and it's really your worldview and your premise that you believe, and I really believe the same thing as well. Explain everybody out there, because well, first of all, it's stemming from your purpose isn't something you're going to get from the outside in or just make up a cool phrase. And what one of the parts that you said the other day that I believe is, you believe, and I believe, that your purpose, you were born, it was all there. And so our life, or one of our life's purposes, is to uncover that. So go into that, because I think that was so profound. I don't know if you planned on saying that. I saw it breeze over a lot of people, and I wanted to like yell and say, guys, did you just hear that? Because I think people are searching to find themselves. What you're like, hey, listen, you were born with this. how do we get it out? So kind of go, because I thought that was like super profound for me.
Thanks. So not only do I believe that people are born with a purpose, they're also born with values, and primarily a number one value. It's so obvious to me. My number one value is simplicity. And what happens is your purpose is there and your life experiences reinforce it. They reinforce your purpose and they reinforce your values. And so for me, to use a real life example, I believe in my heart of hearts that I had to go through what I went through as a child. My dad had to say to me that entrepreneurship and business is going to allow you to get through all this chaos, living outside New York City with no parents, really no adult supervision as a teenager. And understanding that if I can make things happen in the business world and I can earn money legitimately, wow, I could really leave a mark on this planet. So entrepreneurship and business really cured all of my ills. And I said at the meeting, and I'll say it again. So I have a bunch of siblings. There's 8 of us, and over 250 years of marriage, 0 divorces. You just think about how did that happen as a result of that childhood. And this is a point that I don't say too often, but most parents do the exact opposite. Instead of dumping kids into the real world and giving them experiences so that they can have a stable life, parents do the opposite. They don't allow kids to have experiences. They put a pillow under their ass so they don't fall down and hurt their butt. And then they wonder when the kid's 18 or 25 or whatever, why the kid can't do anything. So I touched on a lot about using these principles and applying them to your children's lives. And I love the fact that we had a bunch of kids at the last boot camp, and I'm urging you, let your kids be exposed to this stuff. The reality is, as it relates to purpose that opened up this question, your life experiences, just like mine, helped me uncover my purpose. I realized a long time ago now that I went through what I went through, and my dad gave me those experiences that were forced upon me because my purpose was to inspire entrepreneurship in others. Look what I did, and now I could teach you. And because of the chaos, it was very clear to me that my primary value was simplicity. I crave simplicity because I don't want to go back there. So that's my story. Everyone listening, you have your own story. There are things you went through as a child that informed your who you are, reinforced the purpose that you were born with. So now you got to do the work. It's so obvious. When I had the coach a long time ago, I said, I'm not leaving this place until you tell me what my purpose is. He goes, what do you think it is? And the funny thing was, it was like a 3-day process. But the first thing I blurted out, which I wasn't certain of, was actually what it was. And it's to inspire entrepreneurship. So my point is, you already know what your purpose is. Everybody does. But are you willing to have the courage to actually grab it, write it down, and say, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? I think people have a fear of commitment when it comes to purpose.
I absolutely agree, Rick. I think it's very easy that you can get clear on things, but when it's with yourself, right when you get to the spearhead of it, where it's super crystal clear, it's like that the insecurities and everything that we have start to fight that, and we kind of beat around that. Where we're forcing us to get laser focused really becomes the premise, and you live a life based according to your values, that like you always talk about. So when we talk about business finishing school, and we hear the name boot camp, business finishing school, please go over and help us understand what is the uniqueness, because I've been there many times. So explain the uniqueness of business finishing school. It's not a boot camp where you're like going to exercise and do all these like the relevance and really the uniqueness of what it is, that there's nothing else out there. And I think if we have a little clarity there, more people will be able to say, hey, this is something I want to do.
Okay, so first of all, this is our 13th ones. We've done this 12 times before, and the format has not changed that much. We are in the business of teaching you very simple principles that could be put on the ground tomorrow. There's nothing blinky shiny. There's nothing that you're going to forget about, a month later or a year later. These are universal principles that we've bottled up and packaged in a very unique delivery system from the stage to you. Everybody gets a nice workbook, and we're going to walk you step by step, block by block through the program. Now, what's really cool and what we urge people to do and how it works really is if you bring people with you, your spouse, your child, your employees, because what happens too often, especially in your profession, is the owner or the leader or the doc, they go away by themselves to an island somewhere, they get all jazzed up and they come back and their employer's like, ah, she went to another one of those events. So we price it so inexpensively on top of that. The other thing we do is we ingrain the culture of BFS into you, which is simplicity, probability, and leverage. I don't think there's a person alive today in this cell phone world that doesn't need more of that. And so I want to help you in that area as well. So one of our issues is it's very hard to explain a culture that's so unique. And it is very much a meat and potatoes culture. If you want to learn how to speak French, you've got to go to France and you've got to embed yourself in that language and that culture. Otherwise, you're just taking a French class and you're not learning how to speak it. If you want to learn the language of business using principles-based learning, you've got to be there. You've got to experience it. You got to bring people in your life that you're accountable to. So it's very simple. We've been doing this for a really long time. I've taken principles that I've learned for 41 years, even though I'm only 54. I opened my first business at 13, and I learned the hard way, what's the reality of business. And so I've basically taken everything I've ever learned through mistakes and put it into this 48 module program. And it's step by step, it's bite by bite. I was at an event yesterday, ironically. I wasn't speaking, I was there in the chair, and one of the speakers said, you got your long-term vision of where you want to go with your life. But the reality for me has been, what's the next step I need to take? What's the next book I need to read? What's the next course I need to take? And if you hold the long-term, but you keep going on your small bite-sized steps, you actually kind of life takes on a course enabling you to get to that long-term vision. So you need both. And so I believe the next step for you is to learn the 12 foundational principles of business as taught with these 48 modules of BFS.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So Rick, go over the next, because I want everybody to have exposure, and I know it's coming up really quick. So that's why we want to do this webinar quick. So when's the next event, date, location, and then Tabor can let everybody know how to go further with that.
So it's February 23rd. It starts at 3 o'clock to February 25th, 2018. So it's only 48 hours. And we like to keep things, again, really simple. 3 p.m. in the afternoon on Friday to 10:30 a.m. on Sunday. It's at the Marriott Quorum. It's in Dallas, Texas. It's a 30-minute ride from DFW Airport or a 15-minute ride from Love Field Airport. We want people to fly in from out of town so they can stay focused and they can stay on site. Generally, those are the best people. In other words, people that get the most out of the event. We find that people that drive in, they go out for lunch and they do other stuff. But we want you there. We want you focused. We want you to learn. This is a boot camp environment. So those are the particulars.
Awesome. Well, Rick, thank you so much again. Just really enjoyed hearing you speak always. But, really heard you just went really deeper, which I appreciated at UAC. And thank you so much for finding the time to get on here, especially you, Tabor. I appreciate you with all your new endeavors. So Tabor, close it out.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you, Rick. Man, I always enjoy learning from you. We get focused on money, but if that's all you focus on, you just won't have a very good life. And I love how your teaching is always about the principles, about purpose, about focus, about creating the life you're born to live. So thanks for doing that for all of us.
Tabor, let me add something on that. That was a very good point. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, Rick teaches principles that is a win-win for everything. Like, his principles, it's a win for business, but also it's a win for the family. It's a win for the marriage. If I like, there's a lot of principles, there's a lot of shit out there that they teach you principles that's a win for your business at the cost of your relationship and your kids. That's the one thing that Rick, and Rick has other businesses like the Placemat, where like just the values stem from the core, with the core foundation. That's why, just his family and his siblings aren't the only ones, that just, there's values there. So what it really is that I could be successful in business in all other areas But you don't get there by luck. There's no luck involved. There has to be some very specific principles and really a business philosophy to follow. And that right there gets you really all those things you want versus you could go and spend whatever and go to a course and they'll tell you how to make money or invest all in Bitcoin and make 6,000% at the cost of a family, you know? And so that Tabor, I'm so glad you brought that up because that was freaking huge. I mean, I'm sorry that wasn't the first thing on my mind. So good
That's
job.
the takeaway, man. That's the takeaway. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Everybody watching, I want you to scroll down below the video, hit the big orange button that says register now, and it'll take you to a page that is Business Finishing School. It'll show you February 23rd through the 25th is the 13th Business Mastery Intensive Bootcamp, and you can scroll down that page and register. Don't forget, type in the code HERO, all capitals HERO, and get $200 off your ticket. So thanks for that too, Rick. We appreciate it.
You're
All
welcome,
right.
guys. I had a lot of fun. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right. Y'all too. Bye.